Well, a majority of cancer occurs in older people. Young people aren't immune to the disease. According to the Canadian Cancer Society, roughly 10,000 Canadians aged 20 to 44 are expected to be diagnosed with cancer annually, and 2,000 will die from it. Our next guest is a cancer survivor. He's working to raise awareness about what he says is a lack of help and research for young people dealing with cancer. He is Mike Lang, and he joins us now. Hi and welcome.
Hi.
Now, you, cancer survivor, tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I was officially diagnosed last May with Hodgkin's lymphoma after being misdiagnosed a year and a half before.
Wow.
So, and then I've been going through treatment since then, 6 months of chemo and a month and a half of radiation, and I finished about 2.5 months ago.
So far, so good.
Yeah, so far, so good, and yeah.
Part of that you said with the lack of research. I mean, in your situation, you went for over a year without it properly being diagnosed, or they thought it was something else.
Yeah, and you know, because young adults are often in really good shape, you know, that they don't really move towards cancer so often, as often, I think, and so I thought it was asthma. My breathing was getting shallow when I was skiing and things like that, and that's what made me go back to the doctor quite a few times, and then finally they diagnosed that it was. You know, they got a chest X-ray of me, and it was this grapefruit-sized tumor in my chest, which was pressing my lungs. And that's why I was having a hard time breathing. So,
wow, but you had to push to get that diagnosis.
Yeah, I had to keep going back. Yeah, and like I said, it's just not something you would have thought of when you looked at me, because I was in pretty good shape. So,
yeah, I know. I had a friend who had cancer, and she was pretty young too. So it kind of caught everyone off guard.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, 8 support groups for young adults in Canada. Is there a support group in Calgary?
No, there's, you know, one of our friends has been trying to start one, but it's been very difficult and hasn't had much help with that. And but there's nothing for young adults in Calgary right now. No support group at all. So
how did that make you feel when you found there was no support group in that vein, and also, you know, the lack of research that you say you've noticed?
You know, it was a bit difficult to sort of swallow on. Like, you know, there's a lot of support groups for different cancers, you know, breast cancer specific and testicular cancer specific support groups, but mainly it's for people in older demographics, right? And young adults need that just as much. And so I was really surprised, to be honest, you know. And you know, there are in other cancer centers across Canada, there are young adult groups that are pretty well attended, you know, and so I was surprised that there wasn't anything like that in Calgary. Yeah.
Now, you're going to do a really interesting adventure coming up to Oregon. You're a kayaker, and tell us a little bit about what you have planned.
Well, basically, me and my wife went to this young adult cancer conference in Lake Louise, and we met a lot of other young adults for the first time who were dealing with the same thing that I've been going through. And there we sort of shared with them an idea that we had about raising awareness, and through a kayaking trip, and then filming the kayak trip, and then sort of showing that around Canada. And we really wanted to create a really sort of unique, engaging story that people could be entertained watching, but also to learn a lot about young adults and the specific struggles that we go through, because they are very specific. There's a lot of things that we're going through that a lot of other demographics don't have to worry about, you know, like trying to gain some independence. You know, the financial burden is huge on people our age. There's not so many people supporting us anymore. You know, and you know, relationships, obviously, you know, fertility, wanting to have a family, things like that. They're all really specific, and they're not really addressed in you know, resources for the other older and younger age groups. And so we wanted to talk about those and let the public know that, you know, those are specific to us, and we could use some help with those.
So you will talk about it during the trip, and you'll have discussions and stuff too.
Yeah, and you know, we really want the survivors to get a lot out of it themselves, but there's specific things we're going to talk about. We have a topic for every day, or a word for every day, a theme for every day that we're going to be talking through on the river. And it's, you know, the river is great, you know, because it's a beautiful analogy for life in general, but also for a cancer journey. And so basically, the flow of the river follows what a person would go through during their cancer time. You know, it starts with sort of fear and then isolation and uncertainty, and then it starts to go into identity and things like that, things that you really lose when you're diagnosed with cancer, you know, that you struggle with your diagnosis. And then it sort of moves on to, you know, how do you rebuild your life after cancer? You know, how do you get back into your society, or what is your new normal, is what people talk, because you're never normal again, you know. But there's a new normal.
I'm sure that must shake you up though, because you're, you know, especially being a young person and going through that kind of a diagnosis and that kind of illness.
Yeah, it's a huge effect. You know, just like going to university or going traveling, you know, it's something that profoundly impacts you and shapes who you are. You know, especially at this time in your life, right? And we found a lot of young adults, you know, sort of just. For me for example, I sat in my basement for 3 months and felt sorry for myself and sort of, you know, closed my eyes and wait for the whole experience to be over so I could get on with my life, right? But we realized you can't do that. You have to engage with this. You gotta realize that this is shaping who you are, and you can't just sit back and wait for it to be over to get on with your life. You need to engage with it.
Right.
So
powerful lesson, that's for sure, right?
Yeah, you know, even the hardships in life, you need to engage with them. You can't just wait for them to be over, right? So, yeah.
Now, for this trip, have you got everybody lined up? Are there other people, you know, can people, if there is a cancer, somebody going through cancer right now or has it right now, can they join you?
Well, right now we've got as many
as you need.
We've got all that we need, and we basically have young adults from every sort of region of Canada. We got a few from the West Coast, a few from Central Canada, and then some Eastern Canadians as well, and one guy from Montreal, and so it's a really good spread all across the country. But you know, eventually, who knows? You know, there aren't that many programs for young adults who help them deal with issues and are interesting. You know, going on a kayaking trip. To learn about and work through some of the issues from cancer is just an awesome experience for everyone, you know, no doubt. And so hopefully we'll be running more of these trips in the future.
Yeah,
so.
Maybe they can join down the road. You are looking for people, sort of sponsorship and so on too? Yeah,
we would like to, you know, get some businesses involved in sponsoring us. You know, the visibility is going to be pretty high across the country. We're going to be entering the film in film festivals and doing screenings at high schools and universities and things like that. So, you know, if that's the demographic the business is going after, the young adult demographic, then we're definitely a fairly inexpensive way to get a lot of exposure. So
when exactly are you going?
We're going to the Owyhee River in Oregon, and it's just a beautiful, you know, 500-foot canyon walls, completely desert. You know, 100 kilometers from the nearest ranch most of the time. So it's very quiet, very still, very restful, and very exciting at the same time.
When are the dates that you're headed out?
July 11th to the 23rd, 2009 is when we're going.
Good luck with the trip. We're going to have you come back in after the trip to see how it went.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have some clips to show you then too. So,
for sure. Well, thanks for coming in today.
Great. Thank you.
And for more information on Mike's trip, or maybe you'd like to donate some money or sponsor, log on to survivethrive.org.